There was a news story this morning concerning the Ottawa Senators possibly playing as many as 5 home games in Quebec City next season. I know there's many Sens fans on social media up in arms, worried about relocation. I caution you, not so fast. There's a lot more to the story, and we'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some pretty interesting news this morning from Presse, which is a newspaper outlet in Quebec, from author Sylvain Laurent, who does talk about the Sens a fair bit here. Also, talking about the possibility of Quebec City getting some NHL home games from the Ottawa Senators as early as next year. Now, this article also makes a few comments about potential ownership changes of the Sens down the road. The uncertainty of whether or not the Melnyk daughters, who likely will be the ones inheriting the Senators and Melnyk's his estate, whether or not they're going to want to hold on to the team. Now, clearly, I guess it's kind of one of those things that it's, released here. We're talking about not even, 2 days after the unfortunate death of owner Eugene Melnyk. And we've already got news articles talking about the team moving. Now, the Ottawa Senators have already responded to this article. And on one of the comments in the Ottawa Sun by, I believe it was Bruce Garriock that wrote the article, indicated that the Senators are essentially very disappointed in this article, especially with the timing of it. Now, of course, this article talks with President of Business Operations, Anthony LeBlanc, to kind of explain some things here as to what discussions have actually taken place and what hasn't, and kind of give you a little bit more of a background on this story. Now, the article also talks about the fact that essentially the Senators, like the original one from this morning in La Presse, talked about the Senators having discussions between the Quebec government, Quebecor, who obviously owns the Videotron Center in Quebec City, and hosting these games, and kind of what it could all mean. Now, of course, this article never really went on to say that it was like a sure thing, it was happening, but of course, the Senators are a fan base based on everything that's happened here in the last number of years. I understand why some of them might be on edge. There was certainly not the greatest relationship between owner Eugene Melnyk and the Senators fans over the last number of years. We've seen the fans be, or at least a section of the fans, I shouldn't lump because it's certainly not all, but a chunk of the fan base that has went as far as even getting billboards that said Melnyk out. A lot of people have been critical over the business decisions Melnyk had made as a Senators fan. I know I can lump myself into that. I certainly didn't agree with everything that he did. He certainly developed a reputation for being very difficult to work with. There was a sense that a lot of star players would not get paid in Ottawa, that he, for whatever reason, whether or not it was an ability because of his own financial situation to spend to the cap or just not having the desire to do so, that'll, once you get to the point with a lot of these young players, if they command big bucks, they probably weren't getting it, and they ended up shipping out a lot of high-end talent out of Ottawa over the, probably a 3-4 year stretch there. You saw a mass exodus. We saw the relationship with Daniel Alfredsson, obviously kind of get repaired. They did a retirement for his jersey. He came back to work for the team shortly thereafter, and within 6 months, he was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm done. And a lot of it was basically rumored to be that he just found it way too difficult working with Eugene Melnyk. Now, we've since heard a lot of rumors before Melnyk's death over a number of groups, at least a couple. There's rumored to be as many as 3 or 4, but I know I've heard of at least a couple that I feel were more credible groups, that have some NHL players or former NHL players involved with like a consortium of investors who had wanting to buy the team and had even had discussions with Melnyk, supposedly. I can't verify that, of course. Of course, nothing ever came to be, and I would suspect that some of those groups will certainly be watching this very closely and probably even coming forward to have discussions at the right time, of course, with the Melnyk family about seeing if they're interested in selling at that point in the near future. But only time will tell. Eugene Melnyk has 2 young daughters in their 20s. One's in business school at Queen's in Ontario. She had interned a lot in various departments. Apparently had a major interest in being more involved with the team. I guess probably when she was done school and a little bit older. So we'll see what the decisions are in that regard. But obviously, the Senators, we know, have also struggled with attendance. Clearly, some of this is the fact that the team has been rebuilding, not winning a lot in the last 3 or 4 years. So we've seen a fairly steady decline in attendance. That's obviously not good. We saw back at the outdoor game that the Sens had with the Montreal Canadiens, what was that, 4 years ago now, whatever it was, that he even made comments then because he was asked specifically about relocating the team, and he said, yeah, if it gets to that, if the fans here don't want to support the team, I would consider it. And that really riled up the fan base, rightfully so. But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of Sens fans kind of scramble now, saying, I'm going to start going to the games more, I'll get season tickets, and I'll do this, I'll do that, because they're scared to lose their team. And I get that as well. But at the same time, as much as you might not agree with the owner, that's just how it goes. At the end of the day, it's a business, and if you didn't want to support the team all these last number of years, unfortunately, if enough people do that, it does put things in danger. Now, do I think there was any real danger of the Ottawa Senators moving to Quebec City or anywhere else? No. I think Senators fans need to take a deep breath here, need to relax. Yes, this story has got some very interesting timing, probably not great timing. Obviously, we know that like I said, with all those things factored in, with the fact that the Sens financially have not done well in the last few years, and especially with attendance being down, could it be that it's timing to kind of have a little bit of a scare tactic? I wouldn't put it past somebody like Gary Bettman to do something like that, to be completely honest. I mean, did Bettman write the story? No, of course he didn't. But I'm sure he may have been involved with getting the information to them to be able to do so. I can't verify that. That's just my opinion. Now, of course, with this other article in the Ottawa Sun, talking to Anthony LeBlanc, the president of business operations, he alluded to the fact that there have been discussions with Quebec, the government, Quebec or Videotron Center, to say there were discussions. 100% true. Now, was there a lot more context to those discussions than what this other article led on? Yes, absolutely there was. The main reason around these discussions was for a joint bid to host the 2023 World Junior Championships of Hockey. Now, of course, we know they were originally scheduled to be in Russia, and of course, that's been pulled due to the ongoing war events taking place between Russia and Ukraine, and they're looking for a new location. They have awarded the bid to Canada, so it's going to be in Canada somewhere. Alberta's had a lot of opportunities recently. Ottawa has hosted before, done a phenomenal job, but they thought it would be best to have a sister city, and they immediately thought of either Gatineau, of course, which is super close, or Quebec City, which is a little further away, but still, it's not that ridiculously far that they could certainly have, one pool play in one rink, the other pool play in the other one, and then determine where the playoff games are going to be or what have you. So could they pull something like that off? Absolutely. Now, according to Anthony LeBlanc, he says that during those discussions, it was brought up on the Quebec side that they would love to host neutral site NHL games. And he said the discussions never went any further than that. Now, the other article, the original one that got everybody all up in arms from Presse, didn't really, like I said, it never said it was happening. It just said that there was discussions, which we can confirm. But according to LeBlanc, those discussions never really went much further than them saying that they'd love to host some games. Now, there was also comments in the Ottawa Sun article from members of from Quebec side of things saying they'd love to host any NHL games. They just want NHL hockey there, and I don't entirely blame them. They said they'd host the Toronto Maple Leafs, like they don't care. Normally, at least pre-COVID, we were seeing a couple of preseason neutral site games, normally involving Montreal. I can't remember. I don't know if the Senators have played one of those or not, but they have been getting some action. But essentially, Bettman made it known that the only real reason they would discuss that or even had any discussions at all was they're kind of, sounds like they're trying to show a little love to Quebec City. We've, made it known through the reports, because the Quebec government came out themselves to talk about it even before Bettman and Daly met with them, that they were having meetings with the NHL. They really want to bring back an NHL franchise, whether it's the Quebec Nordiques 2.0 or whatever they end up being, if it ever happens. But, they went on to say that, they released a lot of that information and they were actively working on it, right? And they actually have a new way of funding things, the government being, a big part of that. The government seems to be willing to contribute to bringing the team back in order to Quebec City and to have multiple investors involved, so it's not all on Quebec or company, because it's getting a little rich to be an NHL franchise holder if you have to pay an expansion fee. But at this rate, like I said, if the Nordiques ever come back, the more likely scenario would be relocation anyways, but it could be a scenario that they would still have to pay a good sized fee to the league, and it could be more of a case of the NHL, for example, if they take ownership of a team, because they have to do that. We've seen it with the Coyotes before. Then they could then turn around and sell and then get a relocation fee from that. So either way, it could be very expensive for Quebec to get their team back. And obviously wanting to get some NHL games in that building that's been sitting there active now for like 6-7 years. And I've actually had a chance to go to an event there just this past month, which I think I mentioned here on the channel. It's a beautiful facility. Obviously the Quebec Ramparts are the main tenants for hockey right now, and they try to host as many other events as they can. So keep in mind as well, another benefit, if they ever did do this, and it doesn't sound like it's really all that seriously going to happen, or I'm not sure the odds, I think are pretty low. But if the Senators did have any home games in Quebec City, it would be all about revenue and money. Now that the NHL is a highly gate-driven revenue business, we know that the Senators are one of the lower gate generators and across the league. Like in an average NHL home game, I believe they usually profit anywhere from like $600,000 to $700,000, whereas some teams in the bigger markets make anywhere from $1 to $2 million. So clearly, when they get some of the, I guess, the bigger draws come to town, like the bigger rivalry games, like the Canadiens, for example, Ottawa, Montreal, typically was their largest gate, they would make closer to that $2 million mark. They're more likely to get a sellout, a lot more likely to sell a lot more of the other concessions, etc. So, having said that, they would probably say, well, if we're going to come host, our games in your city, at your arena, you're going to have to pay what's equal to our largest gate at home, if not more. And that could be a good opportunity for them to really recoup some money. And essentially, like we've said before, and Melnyk has made reference to this, and from a business perspective, I get it. I understand why at the same time it would frustrate fans, and it's not really fair to an extent. But, if the fans in Ottawa aren't going to pay to go, somebody else will. They'll want to make their money. So obviously it's an NHL-ready arena. I know there was some talk during the pandemic when restrictions were at its peak that maybe it's best to go to another site to play your games if they could, but there was a lot of other expenses because the arenas they were talking about weren't necessarily normal NHL-ready arenas, where the Quebec City one, I think, would have a lot more everything ready to roll, so it'd be easier to have that take place. So at the end of the day, I don't think anything will come from this. If anything, it'll help the Ottawa bid to host the 23 World Junior Championships, whether it be with Gatineau or Quebec City as their sister partner in the bid. Obviously, that's coming. The bid, I believe the bidding process is out, just came out this week, which is why they're starting to talk about things more in that regard. I don't think there's absolutely any danger of the Ottawa Senators moving. We have no reason to think that. We don't really know the future plans because it just happened here in the past 48 hours with the untimely death of Eugene Melnyk. We don't know what his family's intentions are to either sell the team, maybe sell a portion of it, hold a minority stake. There's a lot of different scenarios that could unfold, and I don't think we're going to have any clue over that for a little while, given the fact that they still have to, manage this estate, go through their grieving process, and have other things on their mind right now. We've been confirmed that it's day-to-day operations as usual for the Ottawa Senators right now. Their management and senior management staff basically run the show on a day-to-day basis anyhow. They will continue to do so. Given the fact that we've seen other NHL cities like the Coyotes being the prime one that we've heard about over and over again, and their scenario, I really don't see a scenario where the Ottawa Senators would be forced to move. I mean, like I said, if the Melnyk family decides to sell, there's already a lot of talk that there's multiple groups in Ottawa who wanted to buy the Senators from years back that would probably come forward and try to make that happen again and move forward with the new arena and keep the Ottawa Senators in the city of Ottawa. I think there's absolutely no danger. So if you're a Senators fan and you're all stressed out and concerned about the Sens moving or hearing about these games in Quebec City, don't be. It's mostly related to, like I said, a combination of either some extra revenue or mostly around the World Junior Championship bid that they're hoping to be able to come through with here in the near future. And at the same time, based on the comments from the NHL and the article, I think to a degree, there's a little bit of a scare tactic maybe from the NHL saying, hey, you better support your team. For those of you who had issues with Eugene Melnyk, he's not there anymore. There are no more excuses. You need to come out, buy your tickets, support this team. Or we do have a city here who's got an arena ready, willing, and able to take this on. And you know what? They're absolutely right to a degree. Like, as much as I hate scare taxes and I don't agree with them, Quebec is a prime location for a team. And now I stress the big word if the Senators ever had to move, it would make easy sense and logical for them to go down to Quebec City. The arena's there. They have ownership and government willing and ready and able to step in to make that happen. It would be a super easy transition. It keeps the NHL team in the Eastern Conference. It keeps them in the Atlantic Division. There'd be no change. So, will it happen? Probably not. But it's, you have to be aware that it's there. And it's a real, thing that they want a team. And they're not going to, like I said, they can't just make it happen that easily. But if things don't work out and they ever do have to go, that's probably where they're going to be, unless they already have a team that came from another resource, another relocation, or if the NHL ever does decide to expand further, which I think would be way into the future if it ever indeed does happen. So Sens fans, relax. This is really not nearly as big a story as it was made out to be. I certainly understand the anxiety and the reaction that we saw on social media this morning. The team needs to move forward in the post-Eugene Melnyk era. We don't know a lot of those questions yet, and it's going to take some time before we do. So for now, chill, support your team, go to the games, buy some tickets, and we'll see what happens in the future. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.